Welcome everyone to the Texas OnCourse monthly webinar series. It's hard to believe we're halfway through April this year. Today's webinar is on college, career, and military readiness, otherwise known as CCMR in your school district. This morning, you are joining almost 500 educators that have registered to gain updates on accountability from TEA and also learn how a variety of districts across Texas use Texas OnCourse within other systems to support their efforts around making CCMR an impact on CCMR impact and those indicators. So today you'll gain best practices and strategies to implement in the 2021-2022 school year with Texas OnCourse. So with Texas OnCourse, all Texas students, no matter where they come from or where they're headed, have a plan for success after high school. If you're just joining and you're new to Texas OnCourse, we are a state-funded initiative designed to improve college and career advising across the state of Texas. And as of January 2021, we are now housed at the Texas Higher Education Coordinating Board. We work really closely as well with other organizations such as TEA, they're joining us today, as well as the Texas Workforce Commission. So as I mentioned, if you have not subscribed to our YouTube channel, that link is right there. And then you'll be able to search by topic. You'll also be able to see on YouTube the videos that we have within the Academy. And this is also where we post our webinars after they have been recorded. So go ahead and take a second and like that YouTube channel, and then you have access to all of our videos and webinars. So here's just a quick agenda of our webinar today. We have reserved from 10 a.m. to 11 a.m. and we want to make sure we cover everything. We know how busy you are, so we want to be very conscious of your time. So we'll do a quick introduction, let you know who's joining us this morning. And then we have an academic accountability update from Heather Smalley from the Texas Education Agency. Great information on the A through F system and what's going on with that this year. And then we have some really fantastic district perspectives and what they're doing on accountability around CCMR. And those district teams today that are joining us are Geral ISD, Frisco ISD, and Harlingen. So they've put together some great information and strategies to share with you all. And then we'll have time at the end for questions and discussion as well. So my name's Laura Guggen. I've been working on the monthly webinar series for a couple of years now at Texas OnCourse. I'm Director of Program Implementation, and my team at OnCourse works directly with programs and pilots that are being used by K through 12 systems across the state of Texas. And my background is in college and career counseling. Heather?
Good morning, everyone. I am Heather Smalley. I'm the Director of Policy and Communications for Accountability at the Texas Education Agency. I'm a former middle school teacher and have worked many years in federal and state programs. I am married to a teacher and have a daughter who is in college to become a teacher.
Great. Thank you, Heather.
Good morning. My name is Caitlin Watson. I serve as the College Career Coordinator here in Geral ISD. I'm also a Cohort 3 Fellow of Texas OnCourse. My background is in school counseling and special education.
Hi, my name is Angela Romney. I'm the Managing Director of Academic Programs, and I support our college and career and military readiness initiatives. We're excited to be here.
And good morning, everyone. My name is Heather Mayfield. I'm the Secondary Counseling Coordinator for Frisco ISD, and I work with all counselors in Frisco and especially work with middle school and high school counselors and campuses.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Crystal Castañeda, and I am one of the college and career advisors for Harlingen ISD. My background is in college and career advising, so we help our seniors with their financial aid, their scholarships, and their college applications.
Great. Thank you all to our guest speakers for joining us this morning. So before we go ahead and get started, we did just want to open it up to folks that are attending, and you can go ahead and put this response in the chat box. But go ahead and let us know what questions you might have about college, career, and military readiness, and put those in the chat box. We'll see if we will get those answered today. And we just are kind of curious of what you all would like to know. And these can be as general as updates or ideas, best practices. I'm going to say this one out loud because I see it's just a panelist, but how do you address rural area students, transportation on post-secondary plans, jobs or colleges? Is there a standard form that we can use to submit or track CCMR information? I think that will be covered in today's webinar. It looks like we're looking for updates, ideas, and best practices. And does military count toward accountability? I think Heather's going to address the military in the CCMR acronym. How does elementary fit in? Any movement on ASVAB scores, counting toward CCMR indicators? Coordination with special education. These are fantastic. Okay, great. This provides a lot of information. I think we will cover a lot of these things, but this also helps us inform future webinars and questions. So thank you all so much, and feel free to continue to add those. I'm going to turn it over to Heather to provide the accountability update from TEA.
Good morning, everyone. I'm going to warn you guys that I am a fast talker. So if you need me to go back and cover something later, please let me know. I do want to make sure that I get in as much as this of this information as possible within the time that we have together. But please feel free to follow up with questions. The email for us is performance.reporting@tea.texas.gov, which we will share. But I'm here to talk about CCMR and how it is used in the academic accountability system. So I'm going to give you an update for 2021. So in 2020, there were no ratings that were issued because there was no STAR test. We did publish CCMR data and graduation data. We will do something similar for 2021. Again, there will be no ratings. Every district and campus will receive a not rated declared state of disaster rating for 2021, but we will process and publish all of the data that we have. So on our 2021 accountability development page, we have published what we call our annual framework, and that lays out the system for that specific year and any changes from one year to the next. We do have an FAQ document about 2021. We also have several other resources that we have published that explain exactly what we will publish and how we will process it. So in the most basic terms, we will process and publish all available data that we have, STAR, CCMR, and graduation rate. We will just not scale that to a score, and we will not assign an A through F rating anywhere in that data. And remember, this is report only data. Report only data. We will not scale those scores. We are removing scaling tools. We do not want people to try to what if their data. So it is report only. This is data for you guys to take and to use and to see what the impact of COVID was on your students and your campuses and your communities. So on the left-hand side is an example of what a 2019 accountability rating summary report looked like. And as you can see there, we had component scores and scaled scores, and then ratings in the 3 domains. We had the label for school improvement, and we had distinction designations. We have a mock-up that is currently just a draft of what 2021 will look like. You will see that we have the data, we have a raw score, we don't have school improvement labels, and there will not be distinction designations. We will add some information about participation rate for tests. We anticipate that our participation rate statewide for assessments, which is normally about 99% statewide, will be significantly lower because of virtual learning, and we do not have a STAR test that can be taken at home. So you will see an addition of some participation on that accountability overall summary. Here are some CCMR updates. And so the first one, I saw a couple of questions about military. So the military indicator is still in statute. It is still statutorily required. It is still called College, Career, and Military Readiness. However, when the military indicator was added into statute, it was introduced in 2017, we have been working with the Department of Defense ever since 2017 to get the military enlistment data. They have firmly told us no, no, no. And at this point now, we are down to working out with them the possibility that they will verify enlistment for us, where we would provide them with graduates, and then they would simply tell us yes or no if that student enlisted in the military upon graduation. We had that indicator reported in PEAMS for 3 years. And between the first year, the second year, and the third year, the numbers of students who were reported as having either enlisted or had intended to enlist, not that they had shown interest, but actually full intended to enlist, doubled every year. So our numbers on some campuses and districts were 100% of their graduates enlisted in the military. As those numbers were more than twice what the U.S. Armed Forces said had publicly released that 17 to 9-year-olds had enlisted in Texas, we knew that we could no longer use that data because it is what we casually refer to as dirty data. So we will not use military enlistment data that is self-reported by districts. When and if we get that from the Department of Defense, we will then re-include that data into both accountability CCMR and outcomes bonus CCMR. We had an indicator for a number of years that was being phased out once the A/F system was introduced, and that was a 0.5 point awarded for students who were CTE coherent sequence graduates who had also taken a course toward an IBC. That was phased out, so you will no longer see that in the reports for 2021. We will release all of our mask reports on txschools.gov and all of our accountability pages, our TAPER reports, our federal report card, our school report card, etc. We will also insert into Teal Accountability, which is a secure login because it has confidential student information. We will release all of the confidential student listings and unmasked accountability reports. And then in the fall, we will have access to attendance data from this school year that provides us on a student level which students by day were synchronous, asynchronous, and in person. So we will have additional data that we can slice and dice with our, we will have COVID impacted data to slice and dice with our traditional STAR data, graduation data, and CCMR data. So we will analyze and process that and then share that in the winter of 2021. Our 2021 accountability manual will be posted for public comment at the end of this week. Again, it just tells you how we will process the data that we will publish publicly. I saw there was a question about, is there some way to track these students? Well, we have two products that we have started releasing over the past 2 years. We have what we call a CCMR verifier and a CCMR tracker, and we release those annually. So the first one that I'm going to talk about is the CCMR tracker. So the CCMR tracker is available in that Teal Accountability application. Teal Accountability is an application for which you first must have Teal access, and then your superintendent must grant you access because it has every student in the district. It has STAR information, CCMR information, graduation information, et cetera. So it is very full of student level data. And in that tracker, it provides a preview of your students who are in grades 9 through 12 and whether or not they have already met a CCMR indicator. And I'm going to talk about where those data originate from, so you guys will know. So the most recent tracker has all of your students who were reported as enrolled in grades 9 through 12 on this last October snapshot. So this school year, October, grades 9 through 12 are the students you will see in the tracker. So you can use that tracker to plan to make sure that everything that is reported in PEIMS is reported correctly, and then keep track of those students who have not yet met a CCMR indicator on their way to graduation. So the biggest reminder I want to remind everyone about is the lag in data. So for PEIMS data, which is information such as course completion, IBCs, anything that districts report themselves in PEIMS lags. And that is usually reported, most of that information is reported over the summer or in the fall, and then we do not get that until February of the following year. So the data that is in the tracker lags. So we have released the first set of CCMR tracker data last month, and that is all of the PEIMS data that was reported for last school year. So it's the 19-20 school year data applied to your current year students. We also had TSIA results from the Higher Ed Coordinating Board that we matched, and any on-ramps course completion that we received from the on-ramps program. So the first set of tracker data just contains those updated fields for the students that are in there. Our second release in July will add in SAT, ACT, APIB, and level 1 and level 2 certificate information from the last school year. So there will be 2 stages of release. Next slide. This is for informational purposes only. There can be no corrections submitted to TEA. I am a huge proponent and a constant preacher of clean PEIMS data. If you are not friends with your PEIMS data coordinator, you need to become friends with your PEIMS data coordinator. PEIMS data is submitted by districts. It is certified by the PEIMS coordinator. It is certified by the superintendent. It is certified by the Education Service Center. And then it has a corrections window where it goes through that same 3-step certification process. Once the data has been certified and checked for completeness and accuracy, that data is final. So if there are mistakes in students' PEIMS data from their freshman year, that data will follow them until they graduate. Once that resubmission window is closed for PEIMS cleanup, it is done and final. We do have a video walkthrough of the CCMR tracker available on our performance reporting resources page. We will update that for the 2021 version, but they are very similar. So you can go in there and go through the walkthrough of the CCMR tracker. And then if you have any questions, you can follow up. And there are a couple of resources in there too, in that tracker that you can click. Where did we get the data? What years are the data for? Who is included? What does this mean? So there are some resources in the tracker as well. Now the verifier is for the students who have graduated. So graduation information is submitted in PEIMS in the fall. So in November, districts report information on their graduates from May. That data then comes to TEA staff in February. So then we start processing all of the data for your graduates almost a year after they have graduated. So that is where we get the data that we then publish for the verifier. So the verifier will be your 2020 annual graduates, and then any of your non-graduating 12th graders. The verifier is a correction system, but it cannot be used to correct PEIMS data. PEIMS data is final, but I'll talk about what kind of information you can correct through the verifier. And again, this year it's for your 2020 annual graduates. So we encourage you guys to go in there and verify that data because it is used for outcomes bonuses, which is funding. If you are from a very small district, sometimes we do what's called small numbers analysis, where we use 3 years of data because you don't have enough graduates to evaluate for 1 year. We do incorporate this data as part of the Texas Academic Performance, or the TAPER report, which is a required annual board report. And then we may use that data for future accountability ratings, whether it is to adjust scaling, to reset cut points, et cetera. So we use modeled data all of the time to make tweaks and adjustments to future systems. If you don't find anything in the verifier that is off, you don't have to do anything. There are Excel downloads in both the verifier and the tracker. We encourage you guys to go in there and download and save those. Teal accountability is not an archival system. That means we keep 1 year of data live in the verifier and the tracker. So you need to go in there and download your data for that year and save it. Once a new year of data comes out, the old data goes away. So make sure you go in there and download that. For the verifier, you can submit corrections for things such as SAT, ACT, AP, IB, TSIA. The number one way that we match results to students is through a correct first name, a correct last name, and a correct date of birth. If you can get your students to give a correct first name, a correct last name, and a correct date of birth, we can match their results to the student. Next slide. So, you know, I get questions all the time about, do we need to make sure their social security number is correct, their TSD, SID, et cetera. I'm going to reiterate, please make sure they have correct first name, correct last name, correct date of birth. The number one submission we get in the verifier is that the students have used a nickname, they have misspelled their name, or perhaps they have two last names and they only used one on a test document. So get the name right, and we will match them up. CCMR outcomes bonus. What is a CCMR outcomes bonus and why is it important to your district? If you work in CCMR, you've probably already heard about CCMR outcomes bonus. We have issued money for 2 years on CCMR outcomes bonus. CCMR outcomes bonus came about as part of House Bill 3, which came from the last legislative session. It awards funding for districts who have students in excess of a threshold. So we award funding based on students who are educationally disadvantaged, who are not educationally disadvantaged, if that is interchangeable with economically disadvantaged, and students who are enrolled in special education. So a student who is special education and economically disadvantaged would receive double funding for that. So we established thresholds for each cohort of students based on 2017 data. And in order to receive funding, you have to have more than 11% of your annual graduates who are economically disadvantaged meet at least one of those CCMR indicators. You have to have more than 24% of your students who graduate who are not educationally disadvantaged. And any of your special education students will be in excess because that threshold was 0. So any special education student who meets the CCMR indicator will generate funding for your district. EcoDis receives $5,000 per student in excess of the threshold. Non-economically disadvantaged students get $3,000, and special education students receive $2,000. I saw a question that asked if those thresholds will change. No, those were based on 2017. We had to go through a rulemaking process with those. Those are set in statute in the Texas Administrative Code. Unless the ledge asks us to reset those are the thresholds that are set in statute. We get a lot of questions about, well, this student was CCMR in my accountability, but they're not CCMR in my outcomes bonus. There are listings in Teal accountability just for CCMR outcomes bonuses. Those have different, more stringent criteria. This flyer is on our resources page. As you can see, for example, in College Ready, there are quite a few ways to meet College Ready and accountability. However, in CCMR outcomes bonus, they must meet both reading and math TSI criteria and then do those other things. So the CCMR outcomes bonus criteria is much more stringent. A question we get all the time is, do they have to make the TSI criteria on the same assessment? The answer to that is no, they can mix and match. So a student could complete a college prep course in English and meet the TSI criteria on ACT. For math, as long as they meet it in reading and math on any one of those options, then they are considered TSI ready. So you can mix and match the TSI criteria. And again, the military readiness is on hold until we can receive that data from the feds. You can go ahead, that's fine. So there is a bonus report that is available in Teal Accountability. It is a student level listing. There is also funding available on TEA's Summary of Finance, where you can go in and see how much money your district generated for both the 1920 and 2021 school year. We have several resources on our resources page, including where that data comes from, what that timeline looks like, and that flyer that I just showed about the difference between CCMR accountability and CCMR outcomes bonuses. I'm going to hit the chat while other people talk and the Q&As and try to answer some of those questions. So keep them coming.
Perfect. Thank you so much to Heather Smalley for contributing all of those great updates. We get a lot of questions on accountability in A through F. We also work closely with districts. We also write the College and Career Strategist, where we provide accountability updates. So it's great to get those updates straight from TEA and be able to answer those questions for people that are in the field. So switching gears a little bit, we always provide district practices, and this webinar in particular is around accountability. So we have Geral and Frisco and Harlingen here to join us this morning. So we're gonna kick it over to Caitlin from Geral. But first, if you want to go ahead and let us know what are some of your best practices for achieving your CCMR goals in the chat box, and we will collect some of those best practices. We have a lot of folks today that are going to talk about those, but it's great for us to collect that information as well and just share that in the chat box. And then we will go ahead and kick it over to Caitlin to talk about what they're doing in their districts on CCMR strategies.
Thanks, Laura. You can go to the next slide if you don't mind. Thank you. I know a lot of these are things that you guys are already doing. I hope that some of the ideas we've had here in Geral resonate with you. I can't wait to hear what the other districts have to offer, as well as the ones you drop in the chat. Virtual meetings, I feel like, are really obvious, but really a huge priority has been keeping everyone informed and having real clear intention in those communications. Additionally, I've brought a lot of attention to timelines and patience and providing the information and making sure it's accessible when students and families are ready. One thing that we've noticed this year is that everyone's at a different place, right? Our timeline for what we expect our freshmen through seniors to be at looks a little different. They might not be taking the SAT or ACT. They might have changed their mind about what their plan for next year would look like. And having all of the information available for them, whether they're pivoting or just starting their process of planning for their postgraduate plans, making sure everything is there for them in accessible ways and with valuable resources, making sure you're checking in with students and families, accessible to them, as well as just collaborating with the people who are touching base with these kids often. I've leaned really heavily on our teachers this year in communicating with students, as well as our counseling team, just making sure that we are communicating the best ways that we can. So I'll get into that a little bit more in the next slide. Specifically communicating with my team. One thing we've noticed this year is we aren't able to gather at the table as often as we might have before, and we are limited to Zoom meetings in some circumstances. But one thing that I've done is create a document. That top one right there, it's a little hard to see, I'm sorry. And I just have a running list. So I add to the top of that document almost daily of what's going on in our CCMR world. And that's so that our leaders at admin, our principals, those who are collaborating with us on CCMR, we are all on the same page. So when I get an update from AP, I might be the only person receiving that email. I can't, assure that they're receiving the same information. So updating that has been really helpful in just making sure all of us are on the same page when it comes to CCMR information, because things have been changing so rapidly. Additionally, tracking students in comprehensive ways, that tracking and accountability piece, I lean heavily on that tracker that Ms. Smalley referenced, but I also have come up with ways to track conversations with kids, because right now so many of them are having to pivot or might feel discouraged at different points, and having a few notes that I can reference to say, you know what, that might not have worked out, but you have mentioned interest in this as well, has been really helpful in just supporting them in sometimes changing plans. Program decisions to support CCMR, like I said, getting really intentional and creative with communication. One thing we've added for our in-person students is a chalkboard with just visual reminders of some of the things they need to be thinking about. We have some visual timelines, we have some virtual reminders, but just making sure that they are seeing, we'll get into some of the CCMR representation we've added this year, but making sure that we have visual as well as verbal and email reminders of the things they need to be thinking about and the why behind it. Really trying to make sure that we are preparing them to as best we can for whatever their future will look like. So making sure they have that TSI information, for example, is great. With communication, breaking it down and chunking it, like I said, being as intentional as we can be with our communication. Right now, they're flooded with emails. I know families are as well, but really emphasizing the why behind what we're sharing or asking, as well as being approachable and transparent in communication, making sure we answer the phone when a parent calls with questions about dual credit or TSI or any of the CCMR things that we're focusing on right now. Get creative. This has been a wild year, and asking for help is not easy for many of us. But one thing I did at the beginning of the year was I emailed 2,000 schools and just said, hey, help us out. And so I wasn't sure if I'd get anything back, but when I came back from that winter storm, that top photo is the pile of mail in my office. We received stuff back from about 300 schools so far in terms of pennants and swag and information for our students. And as well as our military representatives have been so helpful when we've asked them for any level of help, even though it looks a little different, they're willing to get creative to help support our students and remind them of all the opportunities available to them. To increase engagement with CCMR, one thing we've done is reroute some of our funding that would traditionally go to college visits to CCMR representation on campus. We've also tried to include our community and our other campuses. So we just did a big March Madness event, and different groups across the district were able to pick up a school and represent a school, and then follow that school throughout the March Madness NCAA tournament. So that was a really fun way that we were able to engage our community. These are some of the ways we've rerouted funding, some of our CCMR funding. I worked with a vinyl company to have all of those schools. There's also military and a few other, there's the Naval Academy is represented on those stairs. We have covered 7 staircases on our campus with over 150 schools. The alley-oop is what we called our March Madness tournament for copyright purposes, but we've advertised that, as well as we have added flags, signage, QR codes around our campus to help remind students of their potential and options. Trying to be as accessible as we can be to students. We've done in-person scholarship opportunities and lunches. We've also used some funding to create a college prep library within our school library. So we've purchased all the SAT, ACT, ASVAB prep, and we've also expanded our advanced placement and dual credit programs, as well as adding some high school credit courses to the middle school to really engage students in that higher level thinking at an earlier point in time as we kind of prepare them for what's next. In conclusion, I believe this is my last slide, really focusing on meeting students where they're at, whether that's COVID related or not, meeting, kind of going back to that counseling mindset of meeting their physical needs, their health needs, whatever is going on at home. A lot of our students have some major changes to what life looks like for them, and some new post-secondary anxiety or stress. Some families who might have intended to help pay for college might not be able to anymore, and really helping them to be as prepared as possible because of the resources beyond high school being limited, and making sure they have options, whether that be a resume, a financial plan, how to fill out an application, supporting and encouraging future planning, no matter what that looks like, and making sure they have all of the opportunity that they so deserve. So thank you guys for your time, and I'll pass it over to Frisco.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Caitlin. We're going to go ahead and let Dr. Rodney and Heather Mayfield review some of their CCMR strategies in Frisco ISD.
Great, thank you, and thanks for having us. My name is Angela Romney, like I mentioned, and I'm going to share a little bit about from our CCMR initiatives from a district viewpoint, and then drill down a little bit more into some of our academic advisement, which is a key component of our CCMR efforts. I guess I would start out with, we are not perfect, and we are certainly trying to, we're on a journey. And so we're in the early stages of the journey and really trying to sort through, like probably a lot of you, all of this information and make sure that we can provide the best supports and services for our students. For your reference, we are a large school district, about 63,000 students just north of Dallas. Fairly affluent suburban school district, but we do have about 10 to 15, it varies, % of students who would qualify as economically disadvantaged. Doesn't sound like a lot probably for some of your districts, but it does equate to a lot of students. We're talking about 9,000 to 10,000 students. And so that's something to keep in mind as we go through this. So we really started out, if you want to go to the next slide, about making sure we're compliant. We want to do what's best for students. We also want to make sure that we're in compliant, and of course those aren't mutually exclusive. So we went through the House Bill 3 requirements, and we know that we have to have an overall district goal to increase CCMR readiness. And so we really started with reviewing that data to see where we're at. We had been fairly lucky, I'll say, in that our results were pretty good, and so it wasn't on our radar. It wasn't an alarm or a fire. And so, but it was time for us to really dive into that data and find out, you know, just like any data, you have some good pieces and then you have some areas to improve. And so we recognized that as we drill down by student cohort, we had areas to improve to make sure that we're providing equity and access for all of our students. We also required to have each high school include a CCMR plan or a goal that's related and broken down by each of the student cohorts. And then we went through that process of analyzing the data, developing our district goal, but we didn't want to just leave it as a really broad district goal of, yes, we're going to increase by such and such percentage. We knew that we had to have action steps in order to achieve that goal. And so we went ahead and started to create a coalition to put those action steps together. The board approved our district goal in January, and then we know that we have to provide regular updates, so we're working on that. But moving to kind of the district structures and supports that we have, in order for us to even get started with this whole process, we did have to have dedicated district personnel. And I know that's not a luxury that everybody has. But as a fast growth district, we were able to start adding new positions that all contributed to this CCMR effort. My position is new. I was in a different position supporting principals and doing this, and really the job became too much. And so really excited that for the last 2 years, this has been a standalone position that really supports CCMR. We also were able to hire CCMR facilitators for that split between each high school campus, and they support a lot of our College Board, anything really to do with College Board, including the AP testing. We also have increased our coordinators in counseling, advanced academics, dual credits, special education, and all of those pieces are incredibly important because it all funnels into the overall CCMR efforts. So we got members of all of those groups together, and I lead a CCMR advisory committee. Really important to, like Heather said, to include our SIS, our Student Information Services folks, and our Assessment and Accountability Department, because the coding is important, but then also our counseling and advanced academics and special education folks that are really going to do a lot of the work. We developed and we're monitoring our district plan. And then we also began, once we've done this at a district level, we have to get this out to the campuses. And so we provide professional learning and support for our campuses. So just to highlight a little bit of our district plan, our overall goal was just increase CCMR from 79% to 83%. But like I said, when we broke that down, we realized we had 10 to 20% gaps by student cohort. So while that number looks great, some of our other numbers did not. And so we really needed to target those. And so just as a highlight of some of our district goals and strategies, we really focus in on our AP and IB courses, increasing African American, Latinx, and economically disadvantaged enrollment in those courses. We didn't focus necessarily on performance. We really just want to get students enrolled first so that they can then be successful. We also want to increase our dual credit, and then we really focused on the SAT Prep and Khan Academy, just an underutilized free resource. And then all of this is tied into increasing academic guidance and planning. And so, as I think Heather alluded to, sometimes it's difficult to monitor who's earned their CCMR indicator and who hasn't. And so that's been a challenge for us, that we don't have a great solution. We definitely utilize the TEA data and appreciate that. But we're trying internally to create our own dashboard so that we have live data so that our counselors and campus staff are able to really identify and work directly with students to advise them appropriately. Most of our students are earning their indicator through AP tests, SAT, ACT, or dual credit. And so we know that. And so we're really focusing then on the special education area and our IBCs, because those are areas that we know we have room to grow, and they can maybe address the needs of other students. And so this really leads to academic advisement and course registration. And so this is counselors working in collaboration with our administrators and our CCMR facilitators to just encourage students to take those AP and dual credit courses. We also have brought in Gateway, what we like to call Gateway AP courses, AP Seminar and AP Computer Science Principles, because we feel like those are great introductory AP courses for students who haven't taken them. We also have worked with our campuses to cluster group students into those first-time AP courses so that everyone in the room is taking an AP course for the first time, and it's a more comfortable and supportive environment. We've worked really closely with local universities to increase and expand dual credit options, including our technical campus, so different fields that are associated with IBCs. And then we're also trying to do some work with Khan Academy. And then that's the district, and then it really shifts down to the campus, and we've worked with the campuses to inform them about the information and about the accountability pieces and inform them about their data. They obviously had to do the overall goal, but then we wanted them to then put additional strategies and action steps in their campus improvement plan. And so an example here is that a high school is going to increase the Khan Academy enrollment for SAT preparation, to a specific percentage, and that they're going to do that through the English classes, and they're going to actually take the time to enroll students. And so that's kind of from a district big picture level, how it drills down to a specific campus level. And then really a lot of the work is done right there on the campus, where I know a lot of you are with our college and career advising. So I'm going to turn it over to Heather to share a little bit about that.
Hello again, everybody. My name is Heather Mayfield, and again, I'm the Secondary Counseling Coordinator for Frisco ISD. I work alongside Dr. Romney to support our district CCMR goals, specifically under the academic advisement category. So this year, the release of the CCMR plan that Dr. Romney just covered coincided with Frisco ISD's first year in the Texas OnCourse Fellowship Program. So we were really excited to partner with Texas OnCourse in order to strengthen the college and career advising for secondary counselors in Frisco. So we are a large district, as Dr. Romney stated. So we have 34 middle school counselors, 50 high school counselors, and we have 10 district level student support coordinators. So we strongly believe that we have the ability to make an impact in successful post-secondary planning for all students. And the Texas OnCourse program really assisted us this year with leveraging fresh information and materials to do so. So last July, and you can go on to the next slide. Last July, we introduced Texas OnCourse to our counselors. We shared our district CCMR goals. We explained their role in all this and how they could use the OnCourse program to benefit their students and campuses. One of our goals correlated to 100% exposure to Texas OnCourse for all of our counselors. So we allowed time this year during district meetings to have the counselors log into the academy, begin to access the material, review the modules, and really just get an idea of what OnCourse had to offer. We exposed them to resources such as Map My Grad, Middle Galaxy, and reintroduced them to the College and Career Knowledge Assessment for students and staff. So we spent a lot of time bundling and gathering resources from Texas OnCourse that made it really easy for our campuses to use during College and Career Week and also advisory lessons. And we exposed them to all of the wonderful resources that they could use in their campus newsletters, such as infographics and other handouts. And all of these things ultimately would support reaching our fellowship and our CCMR goals. So after the initial rollout throughout the year, we continued to highlight Texas OnCourse at every secondary counselor meeting throughout the year. We would give updates on our goal progress, and we would use fun ways to raise excitement to use the program. So we really thought OnCourse does a good job offering incentives for participation. So we kind of followed that model. We reached out to our district's community partnership office. We gathered rewards from different organizations, and we would give those to counselors and campuses who had the highest rates for OnCourse participation, and also the highest rates for the completion of the College and Career Knowledge Assessment. So this is an example of an incentive program that one of our high schools created, and it's basically a badge program, and teachers and staff would earn different prizes for completing OnCourse modules. So teachers would win prizes from their campus, such as t-shirts, even duty coverage, and other like drinks and treat options for completing modules. So the Texas OnCourse Fellowship exposed our district counselors to a larger network of professionals, greater professional development opportunities, and just really valuable resources. So we promote the monthly webinar series to our counselors. We push out updates from OnCourse. And this is actually a member of our district fellowship team who participated in an article over tips for virtual school counseling. And so we really believe that all of our counselors experienced growth, not only in their professionalism, but also in their leadership capacity due to our fellowship partnership. So like Texas OnCourse, Frisco ISD Counseling believes that all students, no matter where they're from or where they're going, need a plan for after high school. So this spring, we were really excited to organize our first virtual workforce fair as an additional way to educate, prepare, and connect students with post-secondary career options and pathways. And so like Ms. Watson said from Geral ISD, many futures for some of our students and families have changed due to recent events, COVID, and just everything going on in our nation and state right now. So we know the needs of the workforce are evolving, and we really wanted to help fill that need by exposing all of our students to multiple post-secondary options, whether that meant college or two-year certificate programs, military, or workforce training programs that could provide a really direct opportunity into employment directly after high school. So we organized, during our fair, we organized 13 individual webinar sessions, and many of which directly supported CCMR goals. And these would showcase industry-based certification programs at Collin College and also other local career opportunities, such as makeup artistry, mechanic apprenticeships. We had military sessions and other federal job opportunity sessions. We received very positive feedback from students and parents in the community, and we really hope to grow this event in the future. So just some progress to share about our fellowship goals. We did have over 41% of our middle school students in Frisco complete the college and career knowledge assessment. And so we have about 15,000 middle school students. So we were really proud of that number. For FAFSA completion for our seniors in Frisco right now, we are at 52% of FAFSA completion. So not quite our goal, but definitely progress, and that was higher than last year so far. We have 47% of our secondary counselors who have made an OnCourse account, and all of 47% of those have completed at least one OnCourse module. We did reach our goal for raising our district ASVAB participation by 10%. So this year we had 276 students take the ASVAB. And we are still working on exposing our more campus staff to the knowledge and career assessment. We have 84 staff members in Frisco that are not counselors who have completed that and have been working on that with us. So next steps for our fellowship program include developing summer professional development and then developing next year's goals. So that's just a little bit about our district. So thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Heather and Dr. Romney. That's great information from Frisco. And we're going to kick it over to Crystal, who's going to talk about some of their strategies in Harlingen.
Good afternoon, everyone. I will be talking about some of our leadership team in Harlingen ISD. And for those of you that don't know where we're located in South Texas. So to start off, our leadership team consists of our admin, which work at the district main office. It's the Director of Advanced Academic Services, who deals with mainly AP testing and TSI testing, our Director of CTE, who deals with all the CAPE programs, and then our Director of Guidance and Counseling. Then we have our college and career advising team. We have 4 high schools in our district and 1 freshman academy, and each one has the main high schools have 2 college advisors, and then the freshman academy has 1 college advisor. So we do have monthly meetings with our district admin as a college and career advising team. During that meeting, we do have to submit our monthly reports, which we have to indicate how many students signed up for SAT and ACT that month, how many students completed FAFSA that month, how many college rep presentations we had, if we had any military students enlist within that month. So we are held accountable as far as our numbers and what we're doing on a monthly basis. As far as our counseling team at each high school, they do meet weekly as well. And a big part of their weekly meetings is to discuss the CCMR and which students are still pending that. One thing that's been helpful, if you want to go back real quick. One thing that's been helpful is our HCISD TSI testing center. So at our administration building in our district, we have this new lab that they started this about 2 years ago. So basically, it's a TSI testing center. That way, if we are overflowing with our labs here at our high school, or let's say students can't test during school hours, or maybe they need to test over the summer, there's always a proctor running that TSI testing lab at the district. And then we do help with phone calls as well. So even though as college advisors, we don't deal too much with all aspects of CCMR, but we did help this year with phone calls and getting students registered at that TSI testing lab. And then of course, we help with AP and dual. As far as promoting CCMR, we use our social media. We use Remind, parent emails, presentations. Yard signs are specifically important for our students who are AP scholars. We have our billboards with our school district, ASVAB, TSI. Our district is really big on recognition. So our students are all, they get recognized for AP or college if they're accepted to a certain college, things like that at our board meetings. And then we do have a specific counselor that's in charge of dual enrollment. So at our specific high school, we have 2 counselors and they deal with everything dual enrollment. As far as TSI at our high school, we have one TSI main person, and she's the one that deals with vouchers, registration, and then the counselors and myself assist with giving students their scores as well. And here are some pictures of our AP Scholar yard signs that are distributed to the homes of all of our AP scholars. And then our district also has course description bulletins. So if you go to our HEISD website under the CTE department, it basically has a description of all the different CTE programs our district offers, and as well as what classes they have to take, and then also what careers that can lead into. And each of our high schools does have a college and career room. So we always try to make sure that it is inviting, that it has a lot of college pennants and college brochures. Of course, before COVID, we did have a lot of kids who were always in and out, so that we would use our whiteboards and everything to just kind of write out announcements. Of course, we also use our morning announcements now that are on YouTube. And then here are some examples of some of our bulletin boards at our different high schools. And then here are some more examples. This is more of the virtual. So this is what you see when students log in mainly to our Canvas or to our website. And here are some resources. As I mentioned, we do have the different programs of study for all of our CTE programs. Our district offers 15 of them. And so if you go on our website, you can see all the different programs of study. And then we also update everything on our website. Our students are using Canvas. So everything that's on our website will always be on our Canvas account as well.
Oh, thank you so much. I want to be very conscious of time. I know we have a couple of minutes left. If you would like to go, if you have a question, if one of our guest speakers would like to address a question, we can take a couple of minutes to do that. But I would like to assure you all, we are keeping track of the comments, questions, and things that have been requested in the chat. We usually transcribe that, take a look at it, provide an email summary. So if there's something that we don't get to this morning, I want to acknowledge that this has been super high participation. I know we've gotten a lot of requests. We will take this back to our team and figure out how best to address anything for you all. So we will follow up with questions. But if there's anything anyone would like to address right now, please go ahead and do so before we close out for our hour. Real quickly, Tamar Reed from Texas OnCourse just shared in the chat. We had a Getting Started with Texas OnCourse guide that we wanted to share with the attendees. So that link is there. We will provide the slides for reference. I noticed a couple of minor typos, so we will go ahead and change those and fix any errors. And provide that to you in email with the recording. So you will also get the slides. We usually add in all of the links as well. And just because I want to be conscious of time, really special thanks to Heather Smalley from TEA, and also Caitlin and Geral, Dr. Romney and Heather Mayfield in Frisco. Fantastic information on CCMR strategies. And then also Crystal in Harlingen. I know Delicia could not join us today. She was out sick, but we have gotten so much interest in how to strategize around CCMR. So I feel like we will be talking more about it at Texas OnCourse and coordinating with TEA and other organizations. So thank you all for attending. I see some thanks in the chat box. As I mentioned, we'll follow up with our recording and check your email inboxes very soon. Thank you all again so much. And don't forget to follow our YouTube channel and have a wonderful day. Take care, everyone. Thank you so much.